channel, please help me out by pressing the thumbs up button, subscribing, sharing, commenting. I appreciate the dialogue and I appreciate the comments. If you guys hear like this whizzing sound, forgive me. It's my air conditioning at almost full blast. It's hot out here. I think we're at 92, 93 degrees out here. It's Southern California by the border. I don't know how hot is it. How hot is it where you guys are at? Just curious right now. All right, guys. So you're probably clicking on the thumbnail. You clicked on this video because of the thumbnail. A Pennsylvania state agent got involved in a shootout at one of their gas stations. We previously reported on Pennsylvania state agents at gas stations a couple of videos ago. Well, actually, we did a couple of videos. I think we did a couple last year, matter of fact. And it's a huge controversy. Should you put Pennsylvania state agent or state agent on your uniform? Does it give others the impression that you are a law enforcement officer or not? Are they going too far with their equipment that they have? And if you guys remember watching those videos, my argument is a shotgun or a rifle is not excessive, especially depending on the types of areas that you work. There's like 5 people who are Pennsylvania state agents. Pennsylvania state agent is a fancy word for a Pennsylvania security guard. A lot of people were infuriated on that term, state agent. It confuses a lot of people with the term. Confuses people with the term of police or law enforcement. I totally understand that that's an identifier. It's on the West Coast, that is used on the East Coast, and for some of us not in Pennsylvania, I think that we also have to recognize the difference in uniforms. I mean, there's going to be some security company different uniforms that go by different names. Anyhow. It was yesterday or the day before yesterday, one of the patrons or some guy that was mad at security walked inside of the liquor store where the gas station is at, and pulled out a firearm, and a gunfight ensued between the Pennsylvania state agent and this suspect. Both were injured. I think the security officer's taken to the hospital. I think the suspect he lost his life or he was badly injured. I don't remember. If you are the Pennsylvania state agent that was involved, good job. I'm glad that you made it out alive. You guys have a tough job out there. You have a tough job and you have a dangerous job out there. So be careful, okay? Doesn't matter where you are, be careful. I just wanted to talk about that event because this is like the 3rd or 4th video we're doing on Pennsylvania state agents, okay? Now, what really scares me, every time these police inspectors get interviewed, and a police inspector is a fancy word for like police chief or police sheriff on the East Coast states, maybe Pennsylvania. Anyhow, whenever an inspector talks, I get nervous because they always say something that it makes me really not want to work in private security in Pennsylvania. So for example, the Pennsylvania inspector said he doesn't know who shot first, but he does know that both the agent and the suspect were both injured. Who cares who shoots a gun first? It doesn't matter, guys. You shouldn't have to be able to discharge your firearm unless somebody fires at you first. It's almost like that's what they're insinuating. Every time a police inspector gets up there and makes a comment about a security-involved shooting, I get super nervous for those reasons. So I don't know if this is the expectation from that Pennsylvania law enforcement officer, that the suspect shoot first. If it is, there's no way that I would want to work there. That's just crazy. Okay, second story I want to talk about is an Albuquerque security guard about 5 days ago was arrested after he uses baton on somebody, okay? Apparently that baton struck somebody on the head, and it caused some significant injury. I think some hospitalization. That security guard was arrested because of that. Guys, know your policies, know your procedures, know when you can use a baton. I did a baton video. A lot of people didn't like the baton video because it was too violent. I get it. I understand. Um, but remember, you have to resort back to your training, and there's no baton training that I could think of that teaches you to hit somebody in the head, unless the situation calls for deadly force. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, I don't think that situation called for deadly force, and that's why the security guard was arrested. You have to be really careful, guys. When somebody raises their arms in such a way to punch you, to strike you, their arms, I'm driving right now, but look, you put your fist in front of your face, okay? The last thing that you probably saw before you swung the baton was probably a fist, because that's most of the time that's the threat that you're focused on, is the fist. The fist is going to almost always be right in front of the face, right in front of the head. So that's why you gotta be really, really careful on where you strike and practice. Okay, practice makes perfect. Actually, perfect practice makes perfect. You gotta be really, really careful on those baton strikes. It seems like with baton, as it comes to private security guards, the courts tend to place a high level of trust with a security guard's training with regards to baton usage, because there's a whole lot of trust in that training. When you mess up, that could be criminal charges. Okay. I've hit people near the facial area on purpose because it was a deadly threat situation. In other circumstances, you just miss. That person is extremely combative, trying to throw blows at you, punches, and sometimes you're gonna miss. The only time you're not gonna miss is if that person stays still. And if that person stays still, then, well, that person's not being combative, okay? A baton is a highly effective tool. I highly recommend that trained private security officers carry a baton, but with great, I hate to sound like the Spider-Man movie, but with great power comes great responsibility, right? You have a lot of responsibility when it comes to that baton, and you have a duty to try your best not to hit anybody on the face or the head areas, or the areas that you're not supposed to hit them at, okay? With regards to less lethal options, they don't want you guys hitting anybody in the chest areas anymore. Yet I see content creators teaching people to aim towards center mass when it comes to less lethal instruments. I've changed it all around. I will not use, even though I was taught to use a less lethal instrument, to use a baton up here with some pretty aggressive downward thrust. I'm not going to do that unless my life is in danger, because this whole area where I was taught where to hit, it's too close to the throat. I was even telling some of the guys, like, there's no way that I would even use that technique on somebody unless my life is in danger. Okay, so now, in baton training, they do show you how to do some thrust. For me, it's all in the lower torso area. I'm not aiming up there anymore. I'm not aiming towards the face. Guys, just be super careful. I'm serious. I don't. Now, look. California does not recognize negligence when it comes down to baton uses. This is California. That means that if you swing your baton in a negligent manner, that's not an assault with a deadly weapon, not negligent. Now, if you're intentionally aiming for those areas, those critical areas that can cause great bodily injury, then you have an assault with a deadly weapon, and I would even argue attempted murder. But California, there's no negligence, referring to a standard, a conduct, and a breach of that conduct. So if you're taught to do a certain way and you deviate from that way, again, California looks at it as a negligence issue, but not to the extent that it's a criminal negligence. So if you're arrested and you are charged for assault with a deadly weapon because you missed, you're aiming for the hands and you miss and you hit their throat or their head, your argument to the court, and I always think about two sides of the court. Your argument to court would be I was aiming for the hands. That person missed. During the fight, that person tried to launch a throw at me with his punch. Or to throw a punch at me, and I missed. I did not try to aim for the throat or the head. I missed, and that person was struck. Now, I guess your argument might be, well, what are the chances, guys, of you missing and hitting somebody in the head? Well, look, to charge someone for a criminal offense, well, to arrest somebody with a criminal offense, you need to show that there's probable cause to believe that there's a crime. That a crime occurred and that person was responsible. You have to prove that criminal intent. So you have to prove that that person aimed for those areas. Okay? Just to make an arrest, not necessarily too hard for law enforcement to make, but to convict you in a court of law, to convict you beyond reasonable doubt, that's a tough burden. It's a burden. And prosecutors, it doesn't matter where they work, they're not supposed to be charging you unless there's a reasonable chance that they're going to get a conviction. Okay? Mr. Fusion says, what's the point of Baton? Just learn a few takedowns from judo or jiu-jitsu, the police academy stuff that don't work. I would disagree. A baton is a highly effective weapon. I've used the baton a lot. The baton gives you distance. If you know how to use it correctly, it gives you distance so that you don't have to close the distance until you're ready to. Yeah, you can go hands-on, but I tell you, the baton is it's an intimidating weapon. And if you know how to use it, it's very effective. I have a baton, I'll show you guys. And the most I normally have to use it is 3 times. On a regular basis, it's 2 times. And it stops the fight. It stops the fights. Remember, the closer you get to this person, the greater chance of them punching you, hitting you. So if you can, you keep your. It's basically like it acts like a taser. Okay, with a taser, you can get 15 feet, 25 feet away from this person until you're ready to go hands-on. It helps you create that standoff distance. If you can create distance, you can create time. Okay, so that's what I love about the baton. It's just a tool, guys. There's a time and place for a baton. The academy training, in my opinion, I don't know where you guys have been trained, is very effective. My private security baton training was an 8-hour class. Where did I take that class? I think it was a Del Norte ROP, Regional Occupation Program in the La Puente area. I think I took it in the year 2000 or 1999. I don't remember. But the instructor was phenomenal. I think his name was John. Who cares? That was like over 20-something years ago. But anyhow, that class was a really good baton class. Really good class. When I went to the police academy afterwards, the techniques were almost the same. Obviously, in the police academy, you're perfecting all the fundamentals. So I was perfecting all the fundamentals that I learned during my 8-hour baton course. Okay. So yeah, that's all I got to say, guys. If you're a Pennsylvania state agent, you work at gas stations, hopefully they're paying you enough. I'm telling you, it's getting dangerous. This is the second shooting we're reporting on, and I think the 4th incident in the last year and a half on this channel. If you have to use your baton, be careful. You guys, don't aim for the head. Don't aim for the head. Maybe go for the legs. I'm telling you, if you know how to use a baton, you train with it, it is a fight stopper, guys. People don't want to keep fighting you once you strike them with a baton, depending on who. And you're wondering, well, that's not an accurate statement. I've used the baton a lot. I am I guess, a living testament that if you have the proper training and the proper mindset, that it works. Yeah, sometimes you'll miss. You'll hit an area that you didn't intend to. And I don't say that nonchalantly, but guys, hand-to-hand combat is combat when you're on the street trying not to get hit, trying not to get your teeth knocked out. And you got to do what you think is reasonable at that point in time to to survive. On another note, you got to be reasonable about it, because just because you survive an incident, that doesn't mean that there's legal survival as well. So please get trained out there and be careful, guys. I don't want to see any of you make it to the news. All right, guys, take care. I'm out.